Harry has a question.
I've got a question for Harry, actually. Where's Harry? Harry, from Harvey Bay.
Sorry. Have you been calling me?
Harry, I've got a question for you regarding putting the sitting member last. Have you worked out, sort of mathematically, if you can, what percentage of people need to deliver that vote to actually make it work?
Mathematically, no, but my opening statement to everybody here today was, please put this on your cameras, it needs to go Australia-wide. So to answer this lady's question, no, I haven't worked it out mathematically, okay? But the long and the short of it is, as you can all appreciate, if we don't put it out Australia-wide, what I'm suggesting is not going to be effective. It might keep a few, you know, I've been saying this long and hard down in Harvey Bay, where my electorate is. I've been bashing it to death. Well, maybe it'll make a difference to my local member and he won't get back in. Again, nothing personal, it's just the way it is. Okay? But will it make a difference across Australia? I rely on all you people. I rely on the people taking videos. I relied on when I spoke at Canberra. I rely on the people taking videos at Canberra to put this out Australia-wide. Okay? On all your Facebook pages and all the rest. No, I can't give you an exact number. You know? And sometimes people, just while I'm on that, people say, well, if we chuck the, let's say, the Liberal Party member out, we'll get a Labor Party member, possibly. Yep, yeah, that's possible. But look at the big picture. Most people don't look at the big picture. If we can get enough sitting members out, that means if it's the Labor Party or the Liberal Party, for example, they lose all their leaders and they lose all their members. They lose all their ministers and all the rest. That alone would absolutely decimate the party. Imagine if ScoMo and all his front and back bench went. Yep, if we still had a few Liberal members in Parliament, yep, we still got them. Same thing with the Labor Party. But if you can get rid of those major members, the parties would be in an absolute disarray. So do we need to throw them all out to answer your question? Probably not. But as many as we can would be great. But in terms of numbers, don't know. I'm relying on you people and everybody like you to get this out there. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay.
Thanks very much, Harry. Okay, come on, there must be some questions. There must be some questions out there amongst you people. You must have thought something through the day, surely. I've got some more questions in my back pocket that I can throw out. And these questions, I'll read them out one by one. And if any of our candidates would like to come and address them, I'd be more than happy. If not, even if you people go home with these questions in your own minds and have a think about these things yourself, at least it won't have been wasted. Okay, question one that I have here. How do you see the government of the future? Where do you stand on healthcare, body autonomy, child protection, exposing the 28, and common law? Now, just to elaborate on exposing the 28, for those of you who don't know, the Wood Royal Commission a few years ago exposed 28 pedophiles in high places, including government ministers, at least one Prime Minister, many members of the judiciary, and high-profile business people. Now, a lot of people don't like talking about it, but I don't see why not. If these people are guilty of crimes, then they should be answerable. What happened was, this has been gagged by the sitting politicians of the day, and I think it's got something like a 25-year, from memory, restraining order on it.
80 years.
Oh, sorry, 90 years. So most of us probably won't be around to hear the results of that. How ridiculous is that? If any of us commit any crime, we are answerable for it. We the people are the country, we are the government, whether they like to hear us say it or not. So they're the sort of things that we have to stand up and answer to. And if any of these members get in, I would expect them. Looks like Jason's going to come up and have something to say, which is good. I would expect these people to, yeah, you're more than welcome. Thanks very much, Jason.
I appreciate that. This is something near and dear to me for what I mentioned earlier about my second father, my first stepfather. But I want to just let people know something about the suppressed documents. So for me it was important to understand whether the police documents were, what was suppressed. Because my understanding, listening to a lot of people, is that we believe the 28 documents, 28 names were suppressed. Well, so we decided to go to Michaela Cash. So most people would know who she is, the Attorney General. I just want to read a bit of this if I may. What she's saying here is the petition raises concerns over the 90-year suppression orders, sorry I should wear my glasses, that were purportedly, there's the word, what most politicians are, purportedly, over documents provided to the Commonwealth Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse. I was advised no such suppression orders have been made by the Commonwealth Parliament, or it doesn't exist, but anyway, you know who we mean, or any federal court. This government did bring forward amendments to the Royal Commission Act 1902 to exclude information obtained at a private session from public access for 99 years, quote section 60M.
We love you!
Well, two of them. The personal and sensitive nature of people's accounts of how they've been affected by child sexual abuse justified this action and its limit to private session related information. The petition also raises similar concerns about the Royal Commission into New South Wales Police Services. The Royal Commission was established by the New South Wales Government to whom any concerns detailed should be directed. The final paragraph she talks about is corruption in government, and she actually says the Liberal government today plans to, you'll love this, plans to put in place an integrity commission, which of course fell down. So the point being here is, I'm not clear whether actually, this is the point, are the police documents then still alive? Who's got them? Where are they? And was it the victim's details that were suppressed for 99 years? Because it was a little bit unclear in reading it. And I'm going to pop that up on my Facebook page, so you're welcome to have a look at it any time you like. But I'm not sure it was the 28 prominent, and there's probably 1,028 of them out there around the world, who knows. But I don't know if it was that document that was suppressed. If you read what Michaela Cash, the Attorney General, had to say. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I think that's an important point to make. Because if it's not, then where is the police documents? Where are they today? And we should have access to them, that's my opinion.
Thanks very much, Jason. Look, a bit of an answer to that is that Bill Heffernan actually stated that there was overwhelming evidence in most of the cases, and the evidence had been collected by the police. Federal police, I believe, had the evidence, the last I heard. And I think it can't be destroyed, so it's somewhere. But Bill Heffernan has seen it all, and I think he's a good man because at least he had the guts to stand up and speak out about these people. So yeah, I think the evidence is there. I think one day we're going to hear about it, and I don't think we're going to have to wait 90 years. So. Yeah, we've got a lady with a question here, but I'll just let Christy. Yep.
Sorry, I just need to finish on this topic, just some extra information, because this one's pretty close to my heart. And, you know, from what I understand, there was a little bit slipped into the legislation that has created this so-called suppression. It's not actually a suppression per se. Anyway, the only way that we can deal with this is by putting into place an independent commission against corruption. Currently, we've got an ICAC for the states, but we don't actually have one federally. Okay, now Scott Morrison promised at the last election to put one in, and he failed to deliver. Okay, the Labor government has failed to deliver on this as well over the time. They've had their chance, and they haven't been able to do this. And there's probably no guessing why when you saw what happened with another MP from South Burnett just recently getting off his charges for, what was his name? Do you know who that was? It was only last week. His name slips my mind. But anyway, part of the coalition. Okay, so they're all just protecting each other. So we've committed with the Kelly government that we are going to put a federal ICAC in place, and we're going to give them a task and the charge to go back and open this up, to investigate it, and if there is criminal activity that is found, these people will be prosecuted, and if any of them are alive still, they will be prosecuted just like everybody else. So I think that's a good result, and whilst that's under the cost of the public purse, unfortunately, it is the only way that we're going to be able to do this, expose them, and for these names to become public and for justice to be resulted in. Thank you. This is Irene.
Hello everybody, I'm Irene Riley from Childers, and I have a question for all our candidates because this really is extremely important. We've all heard about the wellness camps. There's one in Brisbane, there's also one at Toowoomba, and I heard that they've all been wired up with gas, no appliances that are gas, just gas to every, I would call them prison cells. They have windows, but you cannot open them. They can only open from the office. So this to me is terrifying, and anyone with anybody that has not been jabbed, and I haven't, I believe if you're not scared, you should be. And after seeing what the Palaszczuk government did when she went to the Aboriginal places, I can't remember the towns, but she rounded people up and more or less forced them to be jabbed. Well, I haven't got a gun, and I hope they don't come to my house because I've got a lot of knives. And I'd rather have a bullet in the head than a jab. Anyhow, my question is, have any of our candidates heard what will happen to us if they come around to round us up?
Thank you very much. And we've got one of the candidates coming forward now.
I haven't heard exactly what they're going to do, but to be honest, with the wellness camps, they're not big enough. They're simply not big enough for all of us, and that's where if we all stand together, it's impossible for them to do that. I believe, personally, that the wellness camps are actually for those that are vaccinated, that realise they've been duped, manipulated, conned, and bribed, coerced, and they're going to go nuts, because when they realise the truth, they're going to have to put them somewhere, and there's going to be a lot of them. So, sorry, that's what I'm putting out into the ether, what these camps are for. It's about us standing strong together, humanity standing strong, and we were up against massive, massive powers, but the light's shining down. It's all being revealed. That's what I'm loving about it at the moment. Like, seriously, there's no more hiding. It's all coming forth. So just stay strong, and the wellness camps don't go into the fear. Okay, fear breeds fear. We have to stand in our truth and power. That's what we have.
Thank you very much for that. That's very well said.
Just a few stats that someone told me. There's only like 70,000 police officers in this country and about 70,000 military. How many of us are there? So let's try not to live in fear, because that's what they love. They love us they want to feed off that fear, and let's fight.
Yeah, it's very interesting on that note. A military strategist actually spoke about it, this would be probably 9 months ago, when they started talking about not just mandating the injections. They talked about forcibly making you take the injections. And people were a little worried because there was, I think it was 1,000 troops on the Gold Coast in some of the hotels there, or something like those numbers. And this military strategist said, that's a joke. He said to try and forcibly vaccinate the population of the Gold Coast, he said you'd need 50,000 troops. Because what's going to happen is as soon as the people hear that the troops have come down the end of the street, by the time they reach this end, they might get to the first couple of houses, there's going to be an angry mob regardless of the situation out in the street, and there's going to be people come from everywhere. They're going to have so much problems. You can just imagine if you start letting your mind think about this, that a lot of these stories we're hearing are just not feasible when you sort of put them to the litmus test and just see what can be done and what can't be done. And like this military guy said, he said you'd need 50,000 to forcibly vaccinate everyone in just the Gold Coast. So how many would you need to do Queensland? It's just out there. So don't get frightened about too many things. I believe that there's good things happening in various places. I believe that good people like you everywhere are going to make the difference. So I'll just hand this to Zach.
Right, so just on that there, as far as the camps and things like that go, I'm not going to go into that because I don't really know enough. My opinion of it is, you know, they're not going to be able to put well people in there, and we all know that, you know, if you haven't got it, chances are you're going to be pretty well. What I will touch on though is the Northern Territory subject. I actually know someone up there, a family member of mine, extended family. So we actually know someone that was there with that, so I can speak directly on that. Now they weren't forcibly, so they weren't going to the house as people perceive it, dragging them out, putting the needle into their arm. What they do in these communities that they were going to is they have very little to look forward to. So the kids and the families and things like that, AFL's really big in those Indigenous communities up there. They're not allowed to go to that. So a lot of these places are dry places, so they don't actually have alcohol and things like that there. So what they're doing is going to the houses and saying, hey, if you don't get this needle, you can't go to the sporting ground. You can't go play AFL. You can't go to this area. You're going to be locked out from everyone else. And of course, just like people that are here that I've spoken to that are vaccinated, they are then coerced into it. There is someone standing there ready to give them that in these communities, but if they do say no, and people were saying no, then they weren't forcibly sticking it into their body. So that's just to clarify that up, because when we do get these bits of confusion out there and these bits of misinformation that get out there and spread, we live in a time of technology where we've got information at our fingertips. The problem with it is there's a lot of misinformation, so we need to make sure we're filtering through that so we get our message across there. So we come with factual points so we don't get picked apart. So for that one there, I don't think you'll ever see anyone come to your house and forcibly stick that in there, right?
Thanks very much, Zach. Well, if we sort of covered that question reasonably well, we might move on to the next one. It is evident from the past 2 years that government believes they have every right to control individuals' lives. In light of this, how do you see the function of government? Would any of the candidates like to address that? Because I know how I see the function of government should be. Function of government should be the will of you people.
Yeah, it should be the will of the people. So the government has, especially in the last 2 years, although let's be clear, this just hasn't happened in the last 2 years, it's been going on since Federation in my opinion, but more so the last 50 years. I want to give you an example, a real example of what they do. In 1947, Labor wanted banking reform in Australia, 1947. Now, most of us weren't alive then. I think you were born in, you were saying 73 or something, from memory. I can't remember that. So they wanted banking reform through, right? And they couldn't get it through. And you know why they couldn't? Because of Section 92 of our Constitution. there's more learned people about this than me out there right now. I'll say that. So I think I'm reasonably accurate in what I'm saying here. And so if you even read Labor's constitution, they say they're a democratic socialist party. Page 4 of their constitution says that, right? So they tell you openly that that's what they do. So if you're not then, if you can't make those banking reforms because of Section 92, what do you do? What do you do? Well, I don't know. You might deface the seal, you might create the Australia Act, you might do whatever you basically want. And so these people have done that, and they've done it for so long by stealth. It's been death by 1,000 cuts. 1917, Queensland has said, we don't want to abolish our upper house, right? Our legislative council. Keep it. Because in Queensland and every other state, you've got 5 elements of protection. You've got the lower house, the upper house, the governor, you've got the adjudicator, and you've got your constitution. Well, in Queensland, they changed the constitution twice, gone. In 1987, Micah Hearn cancelled the letters patent of your governor, gone. In 1922, they got rid of the upper house, gone. This is what they do. So what we, and the Great Australian Party, and I'm sure IMOC definitely, and Australian Federation, and you know, you're hearing from the UAP people today as well, and One Nation, this has to turn around, and the way we're going to turn it around is to bring us under our Commonwealth. It is our rightful law. Now, you may not have political parties spruiking it to the likes of Rod Culleton, but I've heard Clive talk about it before. Mike O'Neill certainly talks about it as well. They are so aware of what has happened, and when they get in, this is the beauty of this relationship we have here with these other candidates here that are with other parties. You work together to change it. You work together to make sure you bring us back under our Commonwealth. Because if you don't, then we're going to get more of the same. But it's not incumbent upon us. We're going to do the work in the Parliament if we get in, whether it's 1 or 20, it doesn't matter. What Australia needs to do is you people have to educate other people who are hardcore Labor or even middle of the road, if you like, and Liberal, and try to have conversations, as I said earlier, with them and get them to think about the voting system. And honestly, I mean, there's enough stats we can throw at you about how badly these two parties have done over the years, and try to have conversations with them about time to vote. Why would you vote for Labor and Liberal? We're 1.5 trillion, it's actually nearly close to $1.5 trillion in debt. And I rattled some stats off earlier for you. For me, they're the conversation pieces we have. I want to add one more thing. Some people will say don't vote, you know, so do vote, don't vote. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. You can choose on this. I want to make a point of this. I don't care in that regard because I respect your right. But I want to make one point. There are many things about the voting system that are flawed and that are wrong. There are many things about Australia today that are flawed and that are wrong. But there are many people around Australia today who are prepared to change that. I'll say that. When you don't vote, it's just my opinion, by the way. I'm not asking you to shoot me down. Just my opinion here, right? If you're going to vote for the Freedom guys, you've got one vote here. Can you hold that? So, you've got one vote here for the Freedom Party. Just up more. Thanks. One for the Freedom. So let's just say I'm up here. One for Labor. You decide you're not going to vote. That becomes 2 for Labor. So by you abstaining from, and I could use GAP, could use UAP, it doesn't matter. But when you don't vote, this is my opinion only, you're giving a free kick. Whether the system's corrupt, I don't know. Look, we've got to come at this from many ways. We can't just shoot one bullet, in my opinion only. You've got to have, whatever thing is in your back when you pull a bow out, you've got to have many bows you're aiming at this target, because if there was a magic bullet, then why haven't we fired it? Like, I haven't seen it yet. So I think, you know, we've got to, in my opinion, load all 6 in the chamber and keep shooting and have as many as we can. That's just my opinion only. So I'd encourage people to vote. There are people that will say it's unlawful, it's illegal, it's wrong, it's corrupt. Okay, I'm not denying that may be the case, but what are our options then? Do we just do nothing and stay with the current system? That's all I would add.
Thanks very much, Jason. It's interesting, you know, how many pollies have you run into in the last few years that have, after they've had a sitting in Parliament, they're talking about new bills going to be implemented. How many of them have you seen come back to your local area and say, look, I'd like your opinion on this, people, because, you know, we've got to vote on a couple of bills in a month's time or whatever. It wouldn't be hard for them to do it. They have local media on side. They have local papers and all of these things on side. We have all of these potential links to people through Telegram and Facebook and all these things. It would be very easy in this day and age with our communications the way they are, for a politician to ask his constituents what their opinion was on certain bills, but they don't do it.
Because they toe the party line.
Absolutely, absolutely. Their party tells them what to vote. It's interesting because reading on the history of Bundaberg, way back in the early part of the 1900s, the local member, I think it was Maryborough and Bundaberg were inclusive in those days. The local member was complaining in Parliament because he said when he went home to his area, it took him too long. He only had a certain period of time to find out what the people wanted him to do. And he said that he, riding around, obviously on a horse in those days, riding around from community to community, the guy didn't have enough time to get around. Now that's a good excuse back in 1910 or something around about there. Not much of an excuse today. So I would just like people to realise that these people have to be answerable to you because it's your country and it should be your government. Thanks, I'll just hand it back.
100%, 100%. I've seen politics as a bit of a boys' club, and when you're in the club, you forget about the people, because now you're in this club, you go off to your restaurants, you go to the bars, the Parliament House. I've been in there, I've seen it, you've got the energy, and unfortunately that's the way it works. So they're too busy pleasing each other to please the general public and the people that they serve. So my thing is about the referendum thing. I would like to see that implemented. My concern is with that you have to have balanced information. If we don't have balanced information, you're going to sway those referendums one way or the other. So we have to get to a point where all the truth is revealed and where there's full disclosure on everything, and we get the suppression orders out and we find the truth transparent and transparency in politics. I mean, that's the ultimate. And so governance, as I see it, we're not quite ready. There's some people that say, let's just sack them all and let's vote in a new government. If we do this right now, in my opinion, the people will be voting back in the same people, okay? Because they're not quite ready for that. But you've got to be in it to try. We've got to win the people over. We've got to work together. I see community as the basis. I hope I do get elected because I know I can make a difference. But it's the community. It's about building our own governance within our own circles and our own networks. And let's restore the government to what it should be, and that is truth, transparency and accountability, yeah? We want a good government that's going to honour the will of the people. And so I think that starts down here and we work it up.
Thanks very much. I don't see any great problem with when we have an election, if there's half a dozen burning questions, in other words, questions that affect the whole of our country. I can't see why it would take much longer to have a little sheet of paper there beside you and have a referendum on 4 or 5 different issues that might be affecting the whole country. And even if we had to have one every year, if you care enough about your country and the way that it's operated, I think a lot of people would turn up and vote for those referendum questions. So I'm sure it can be done. Okay, let's move on. Where the grassroots, community-led initiative sit with your idea of government of the future? Well, realistically, I think you guys pretty much answered that up there before. That's pretty much going over old ground. And finally, what will Australia look like if we reinstate the Commonwealth? Should we have a new constitution to protect the Australian people? What would it look like? Now surely we've got a few people who want to answer this one. Right.
I don't know if I touched on this before, but I definitely touched on it when speaking to people. There is nothing wrong with our current constitution. Okay? There is nothing wrong with our current constitution. The current constitution isn't being upheld. The system's broken, not the constitution. We've got state bloody government outruling federal. It's not how it's supposed to be. It's not how it's ever supposed to be. There is nothing wrong, to answer that question, there is nothing wrong with the current constitution. We need to get back to following it, and once we get back to following it, we'll have a better lifestyle.
Thanks very much, Zach. Any of the other candidates like to put anything there? Yeah, look, I think we pretty much have covered it, but it's important at least that everyone here, there's a lot of people out there who aren't thinking at all. Obviously you people are here today because you are thinking, and that's something that human beings have been losing for a long period of time. The ability to think, the ability to use our creative power of reason, given to us by a higher authority, much higher than any government, I might add. So, when you leave here today, go home, think about a few things that you've heard today. I mean, it's been great hearing from the candidates, but there's a lot of questions that you should be asking yourself, and if you can't answer them, then talk to other people, see if you can find the answers, because there's a lot of things out there that we need to go over with a fine-tooth comb, including resetting our own moral compasses, as they say. So thanks once again for everyone coming here. I'm just going to let Christy have a little say.
Thanks, Dave. So there's just another little thing that we didn't really cover off properly before, and that was a question that was, what's to say that we're not just going to, you guys are going to get back in there and just be the same old LNP and toe the party line and all of that sort of thing. Can I just say that, we've got a whole heap of non-career politicians running here. We're freedom fighters. We know the difference between right and wrong. We're sacrificing a whole lot to get in there, and ain't nothing getting past us unless it's for the people, right? All of it, yeah? So there's no one's going to stick any bill or bit of legislation under our nose and say, just pass this one through. That's not what we're doing this for, right? We're doing this because we know that there is something wrong and something very corrupt going on in our government. And there is not a community consultation happening at the moment, is there? And that's what doesn't sit right with me, and I know for all of the other candidates the same would be you'd be feeling the same as well. So we're going to get this back to community consultation, which is the way it should be. And yeah, nothing's getting through us if it's not for the people. So, when you see all those little stooges and trolls and all that out there saying, vote for whatever it is, UAP is a vote for LNP and all of that sort of thing, they're just trying to derail us, okay? They're trying to derail us, cause a little bit of doubt, but we're here for freedom, and that's really all there is to it. Thank you.
Well said, Christy. Yes, we got that's fine.
Yeah, one more.
Okay, I ripped my hat off, I ripped my shoes off, so look out, hey? Let's get the party started. I just want to point out, technology's been suppressed, patents have been suppressed, information has been suppressed. The TGA is funded by the manufacturer. We've got corruption everywhere within the system. We've got vested interests, we've got corporate interests, and it's a mess, okay? All of that has to change. Again, the light has to shine. All of that has to be revealed. Okay, that's the first step in my mind. As for the future, what do I see? Because technology has been suppressed, because we've been suppressed, I've been suppressed, we're dumbed down and we're numbed down, right? On purpose, because we are amazing beings. Humans are amazing. We are so much more powerful than what we're led to believe, yet we're being suppressed. Okay? When we find that, that's when you come together and that's when you make change, and that's when we change the world, yes? Because we can change the world because we've all just got to stand in our truth and power. Again, communities for me, it's back to communities. The future that I see, to be honest, it doesn't do mining, it doesn't do poisoning the people on the planet, it doesn't do what we're doing. We have so many technologies out there, so many resources that we can use to keep our planet intact, to keep our humanity intact, to keep the people intact. That's the future I see. So when we talk about the future, I see a beautiful one. Biodynamic farming, number one. stop poisoning the people with all the drugs. Let's get natural therapies back into the system. Yeah? Let's do it organically. We are amazing beings. Also, let's connect with one another. Become compassionate, caring people that we should be. But we're all too sick and numbed down to feel it. Let's get back to humanity. Let's get back to nature. The vision that I see for Australia is, I was going to swear then, amazing, right? That's what I see. And that's what I want. And that's what I will demand of the people and the government when I'm elected. I just want that for my daughter. And that's why I do this. Yeah? The future. A beautiful future.
Look, I think that's a fantastic note to finish on because that was really well said. As I said, you people here are the people who are going to make the difference. So thank you one and all for turning up today. A little bit disappointed with the numbers. Obviously now that we don't have to wear masks, we can all go back to watching days of our lives. Seems to be anyway. But at least we do have some good people who are awake and who are willing to fight. And I've got a photo of my little granddaughter on my phone, and I'm only going to look at that, and I know that I'll keep fighting while I'm drawing breath. So I hope you people will stay with me and stay with the rest of us, and we'll have more numbers coming to swell our ranks, I know. So one and all, thank you very much again. Thank you, Harry, what you've given us today. Thank you all the candidates. Very impressed with you all. I think you're doing a great job. And let's go and wake some more people up and get this thing rolling. Thanks very much.